Love you, Linda. Love you.
The courthouse the other day in the hallway, you're singing "Oh Happy Day."
One word prayer. Justice, where are you?
Okay, hold on just a second. Okay, hold on just a second. Okay, just stapling some $1,000 together there. Hey, Justice Serve TV is on the air. What's happening there, Linda Kitty Bodden? Michael Bryan here.
I was removing the lipstick from my teeth, and you're stapling money. This is it puts our partnership.
Who doesn't staple money in $1,000 packets to store in their home? I mean, come on.
In case you have to hire a hit person.
You never know, and it's so easy that way. Look, it doesn't.
Yeah.
It's not like rubber bands or paper clips. This is not coming apart. But I know everybody knows I'm talking about Charlie Adelson's method. Yeah, it works. It definitely works. So we are continuing. It's all Adelsons all the time as we continue with As the Adelsons Turn on One Another. And today we have just a couple of tidbits before we get to our amazing guest. Michael Easter is back, and he's going to chat with us about that bump that most people, I think, was the turning point in the case against Donna Adelson. I guess there are a couple of other little tidbits that didn't hurt, but that was, talk about a bump working. I mean, it was a bump on steroids, if that is a thing. So today, jury selection began. We are way ahead of last year. Remember, September last year, we got to this day when the Daniel Rashbaum conflict raised its ugly head and set the whole thing off. Now we've got people trying to be on this jury. I think there are some trying to be on the jury.
I do too. Yeah, it's an interesting way. The judge is looking very comfy in his chambers doing jury selection around the tables like you're at a party.
I was a little surprised they released that. Let me see if I can find that photo. It just seemed a little, I don't know, a little chummy, a little just looked like I was waiting for sandwiches to be served or something. Let's see, here's the one picture. And then somebody was sleuthy enough to push in on, see this little area right here? This obviously Donna Adelson, that is Fulford, is that right? I will get her name sideways all the time. Yeah, Jackie Fulford.
Yeah.
And so somebody pushed in on these words right here, some nosy posy. And let's see if I can get that for you. And it's not a menu. I will tell you that much. Let's see if I can find the second picture that I've got from our chief detective division. Here we go.
There you go. That's what it says.
And it says, if we can zoom in even a touch more. Whoops, wrong way. That would be the wrong way. You can see that you can't read the entire thing, but you get the drift. This is like notes to jurors.
The jurors, right. Isn't that great?
Leave all personal belongings, jackets or drinks in the courtroom. Number 2, leave notepads and pens in your seat until deliberation. Leave jury room in a single file line, something into the courtroom, I think. And then never leave the jury room without, and I think it's going to say something like knocking on the door if you have questions or issues.
I think they're anticipating a deliberating jury because this must be something that stays there for deliberating juries. Now, I did not, the nosy posy you're talking about with me in red lipstick, I did not zoom in on the computers to the attorneys or anything like that because I've had that done to me and I think that's inappropriate.
Yeah. That's
but clearly, the big board, it was like when I put on Jimmy's big board and I had the tarot cards. I just felt like back at home.
To fill people in on the numbers at this point, because Judge Everett has been very upfront about the plan. 50 came in this morning, 50 in the afternoon, and they went through a number of very generic questions, whittled down the folks that couldn't comply with those. And they had things to do with education in terms of, where are you in your education? Not your grade, but do you have like finals coming up, or do you have some other conflict that would warrant not being on the jury? They whittle away at those folks. The rest go one by one into that room where we saw people sitting around, and they get questioned by the judge. Now, the judge said, I wrote these down word for word. Here are the 5 questions that the people in the prospective pile were going to think about before they got into their one-on-one. What do you know about the case? From what sources have you obtained this knowledge from? And I fixed his grammar. From what sources have you obtained this knowledge? Based on what you know, do you have an opinion about Ms. Adelson's guilt or innocence? Number 4, can you set aside your present knowledge, disregard it, and render a verdict solely on the evidence presented in the courtroom? Can you be fair and impartial? That's kind of a 2-parter. And 5, do you have any reason you cannot serve on this jury for potentially up to 3 weeks? That might be if it gets really drawn out. Here's the current timetable. Openings are penciled in for Friday, and they hope by that time, they want about 100 to be ready to go Thursday. Those folks will be questioned by the attorneys, and then that'll be fine-tuned into a panel. So they hope all of that's done today so that everybody comes back all bright and shiny Friday morning for openings. And it sounds like maybe because they don't want to leave something hanging for Friday afternoon. Maybe they have scheduling issues with witnesses. They don't know for sure when openings will be. I think they're just going to do openings and then come back full force on Monday with witnesses. So.
When you'll be there.
I will, yeah. I might not be there for the morning session because I'll be traveling, but I'll be there in spirit. And then in the afternoon, I'll definitely be there and we'll be live from the scene. I can't wait to get there, kind of suss out where I'm going to be able to set up our mobile studio and our Starlink because, we'll be on the scene. I mean, being down there and not being on the scene makes no sense. Got to be there. So
one of us will be there.
Well, one of us is going to be.
I'll be there in spirit. I'll be floating on the hot tub. That was my vacation week. But
vacation. So let me see if there's anything else we had to cover on that front. Oh, the snitch, the alleged snitch. That issue not totally decided yet. The prosecution. First of all, there was a.
We reported on this last night, and our reporting was solid, as usual.
The inmate had spent some time with Donna Adelson, and the question has always been in these cases, was there prompting by the alleged confidential informant, or was it just a free-flowing conversation initiated by Donna Adelson, which would be more likely to be admissible, even if there was some prompting by this fellow inmate. It might go more to the weight than the admissibility.
Incentivized informant, we say.
Is that what it is?
Michael?
Snitches, getting stitches. So the prosecution is saying, we're not even sure we're going to use this person. So, the court may delay any sort of decision pending.
They shouldn't. We all know from the Innocence Project, who just released another video today about how people get wrongfully convicted, and snitches are one of them.
Yeah, they're just. Talk about bias. Yeah. That's you look up bias and there's a picture of a snitch because they want to fix their own situation.
Or an incentivized informant. If we like the literal.
That's kind of fancy. I'm just a simple person.
That's what we call them these days. Just keeping you up on the broad knowledge that we use and the terminology. Just don't want to let you go wayward.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that, Professor. Okay, so speaking of teachers, and I want to ask a very important question of Michael Easter. Let me get him in here so we can begin the intense questioning. Michael Easter, how are you, man?
I'm good.
Hey, Professor.
Yes. How are the classes going? What do you got going on right now? You got some classes going on?
Yes. In September, I'm going to be teaching kind of a basic cell phone investigators course. But for now, I'm amazingly focused on trials and other cases.
And what is that? What's the trial schedule look like? Are you in between them? You got one coming up? What?
In between, I'm actually visiting my son again to help him move back to college. But yeah, I have several trials coming up. I don't know if you guys know, or experience this, but in Southern California, there tends to be trial seasons. Mm-hmm. July, August tends to be pretty light. I think mainly because it's, everyone takes vacations to court, judges, even clearly jurors. So I tend to see trials pick up again in August once school starts back up, and then goes pretty heavy almost until the Christmas break.
Yeah.
And California doesn't have some of the challenges of those back east where weather becomes an issue as well. California, it's just It might rain. Boo-hoo. We're going. The trial's
Well,
going.
we do get fog, and so fog can
Fog.
play a factor.
That's
So
true.
I just see on our chat, you may find this interesting, that apparently somebody said that Dever, Officer Dever from the original trial that we were talking about, Karen Reed, just turned in her gun and badge today. I don't know if that's true or not. I assume it's true.
Not verified yet, but
our chatters are pretty up on things, but I thought I would just mention it because it's the first time I'm seeing it.
yeah. Well, that's. I don't think anybody watching that trial would be surprised. Do you, Michael?
No, in some ways, it's probably the best for the community. I just don't think she was suited to the job.
Right.
Yeah. Hey, I want to ask you this question because people have said you shouldn't call him former special agent, FBI special agent. You should be retired.
I wanted to take issue with that too, Mike.
What's your
I
preference?
saw the header of ex FBI, and as a former Marine, if you're referred to as an ex-Marine, it's an insult.
Okay.
I think what's his name? I already forgot his name from Karen Reed. Michael Proctor.
Yeah.
Proctor. He's an ex-trooper,
He's
right?
an
He
ex.
doesn't
Right.
get the benefit of being a former. I think retired's sufficient.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Somebody who'd brought it up to me and apologize for the X. Somebody's going to be soundly reprimanded for that. Probably me. But
That's you. You're the one who put the title in.
I don't know.
I thought you were trying to create conflict between us, Mike.
I'm going to plead the fifth because I'm not either. I don't remember doing it or I don't know. But somebody had said, well, former makes it sound like, well,
He's
X
corrupt,
makes it
right?
sound like, like
That you're
no longer has a job
Right.
as opposed to retired. I just have a hard time. Here comes my save. I have a hard time thinking of you as retired because you're so young. It just
Okay.
doesn't
you know what? I'll
compute.
take that. If that's your apology, I take it.
Okay. All right, then. So, as I mentioned when we first set this up, key to this Adelson case, and I'm sure you're familiar with the litany of cases that have preceded this one now underway with jury selection. This the FBI involvement was key, and this issue of the bump was not just fascinating, but some would say, turned the case against both Charlie and Donna to the point where the prosecutors felt like that we've got all we need. What I wanted to do, and I'm sure you've looked at it, and I'm sure our folks have looked at it, but we should both, or all four of us, that'd be the audience and the three of us, we should look at it one more time. It's relatively short, and that way it'll be fresh in everybody's mind how this worked. Then I want to totally get into everything from, how do you audition the special agent to do this? All of that stuff, because I'm fascinated by how you get to the point where this actually happened. So again, this is what is called the bump. And where'd that name come from, by the way? What's that?
I watched some videos. I think it came from the prosecutor mentioning it as the bump. That's not a term I would have normally used as an investigator.
What did you say?
What would you call it?
An introduction, typically a UCE introduction into your case is kind of a more formal term. Because there was electronic surveillance going, I would have referred to it as tickling the wire.
Oh, okay.
Tickling the wire. I love
But
that.
I'm not against the bump. I think that probably makes more sense to your average viewer, but I just never referred to it as that.
Like you're nudging, could be the nudge.
Yeah, I like it because it's a little.
I like tickling the wire. I mean, I think that's kind of like, ooh. By the way, Missy Mayhem says she's fixed the title.
Thank you, Missy. Thanks for fixing it now. Oh, after I've been skewered. Okay, so here we go. This is what we have on the left side of the screen is the body cam of the undercover FBI special agent. The right side is, I don't know, from the van. I just think of, law enforcement shows. You have a van, some vehicle. So you've got the two perspectives. You've got audio, and we will see coming down the steps, we will see Donna Adelson.
Okay, man. Excuse me, Mrs. Adelson? How you doing? Just want to give you this. Listen. I'm not scared. No, don't be scared. Listen, just want to let you know that We know that your family has been taking care of Katie and her friend Pluto for quite some time after your problem up north has been resolved. And I want to let you know that my brother, he's incarcerated. He helped your family with this problem you guys had up north. And we want to make sure that he's going through some rough times. We want to make sure that you take care of what he's going through, the way you're taking care of Katie and Tuzo. Well, this will explain it. Thank you.
One gives a quick look back. What do you think she's thinking right there? Okay, so that's the scene setter for the bump. First of all, this would led me to the question about auditioning for the part. I think the guy looks the part, but he doesn't sound the part. He doesn't have any sort of Latin affect. Not that you have to be a Latin king. And then at the very end, when he said thank you, I thought that was a little out of character for this rough and tough guy. Here, thank you. Like, have a nice day. Okay, so how does that work? How does that process work? How do you get the guy that you're going to use?
Yeah, there definitely would be a process. I've used undercover employees or agents on a few of my own cases, and you would normally coordinate with the undercover coordinator and ask, or maybe inform them, rather is a better description of what you need, what kind of scenario you're hoping to introduce into the case, and the type of individual that would be best to do that. The undercover coordinator can canvass not only the division, but the entire FBI to identify an undercover that'd be appropriate. So yeah, you would definitely be given some options. I've been given options historically, and they'd give you individuals that they think would be a good fit, that are available, that aren't already, I want to say, encumbered in an undercover operation that's ongoing. And that would be available, what I would kind of refer to as a cameo appearance in your case.
Are there guys that's all they do is this undercover stuff, or could it be anybody?
Not any agent can be an undercover employee just on a whim. You could get special approvals to do what I would say is a cameo appearance, but the undercover employees or undercover agents in the bureau go through specialized training, and they have backstopping, and even psychological tests, as they're ongoing, to make sure that the role they're playing is still a role and not an official thing for them now, but yeah, in my experience, everyone that I've used has been undercover as a collateral assignment, which then becomes tricky, right? You can't be working too many overt investigations and remain in the undercover program.
Yeah, interesting. Raises Cat said that the special agent, Patrick Sanford, who testified in the previous trial, felt that Donna was the one who would call somebody who got stopped like this. Now, what exactly was said to her? Michael Bryan, what exactly was said to her?
Yeah, I know some of it was a little rough to understand, but basically this agent, this undercover guy, is saying, hey, we appreciate what you've done for Katie McBenoit, who's been, you've been taking care of her, but there's a guy that also helped with the problem you had up north, and we like to see that you take care of him as well. And she's, what? And that's when he says, here, this will explain it. It's the flyer that asks for $5,000, and the idea is that they're going to put $5,000 on his commissary account, or however they do those things, Michael. The idea is just to get her agitated, and it worked. That's for sure. How did they, Michael? How do they target? With this case, you got a few options, right? You could have bumped a few different people. How does that process take place?
Well, the process takes place through some planning. Clearly, you would be planning with the investigators, whether it's state and local that you're assisting, or even if it was just a straight FBI case, there'd be some coordination with the the undercover employee, the undercover coordinator, supervisors, as well as even the prosecution in cases like this. When I look at this one, I really thought it was just really well done. I know that maybe the UCE wasn't a true gang member, but I thought that some of that stylistically is helpful in the sense that he's not going to be too threatening, so that the target, Donna in this case, doesn't feel overly threatened. It doesn't become a new crime, so to speak. And I thought that was actually probably done very purposefully. In this case, to answer your question a little bit more, is that I like the way they picked her, and I think they picked her because of what Agent Sanford mentioned is what they felt that when they looked at the phone analysis, the phone tree, that if they called bumped Donna, is that she would domino the phone calls up the chain, and that it would go to Charlie, and then Charlie would call fall on, and they saw that originally already in the historical records, and I think it was a great example to prove the conspiracy that all these players are involved in it. It happened as that agent had explained it likely would, and which is why they did the event also, was to prove that part of the conspiracy, not just to get them talking, but to prove that kind of hierarchical interaction.
So is it the weakest link, or is she considered the primary link, or the one who controls in this type of analysis?
I think for me, looking at it in my own cases, it's the one that's going to likely give you the best response that you're looking for, which is, I want this person to get nervous and begin to resurface all the conversations. And so I'd be looking for somebody that's has some control, knowledge, and isn't savvy enough to take it off the phones and simply make phone calls. You could imagine how this would have gone differently if the criminal experience would have been better to not use cell phones to communicate with each other, or landlines even.
And my second question on that is, he was kind of a big guy, but he was very pleasant, very kind, right? Thank you.
Yeah, he looks kind of scary, but he sounds very nice.
He looks scary, but sounds like. Does size or gender have anything to do with who you pick?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, surprisingly, in several of the gang cases I've used where I've tried to elicit information from a target, I've typically used a female or a woman. They're more disarming. The male subject doesn't feel as threatened by them, and tends to be a little more chatty with them, especially if, hopefully this doesn't offend your viewers, but
attractive. Don't wait.
An attractive female talking to a male target, we tend to get
typical man.
We want.
That's right.
But I thought he played the role very well, in that you don't want to be too intimidating and too scary to where she runs away. We want her to stay engaged, right? We don't want her to run away screaming. That's not helpful to a case. And we don't want her to feel so threatened that maybe she goes to law enforcement because it was so scary. We want it to be just enough to elicit that fear response, but not the flight response. And to really do exactly, I can't imagine that this is not the exact result they wanted, which is she stayed put, she listened, he clarifies why he's there, she takes the gift or the paper that they wanted to give her, which shows that she has knowledge now that the events took place. Because if someone handed you an article about something unrelated and you didn't have any involvement, you'd be like, what are you talking about? Get away from me. Get away from me, crazy person. You wouldn't put it in your purse. Yeah. And then, her first interactions are to make phone calls as they had hoped. And then, they would have had what I would refer to as electronic and physical surveillance of her and others at that time to watch the actions.
So tell me about that vehicle. Is it the cliche, generic looking van that has, is that what it is?
I don't want to say we don't use vans. Typically not. It's just not a vehicle that's readily available to agents in most cases. And we don't really need a sophisticated thing that you see on the TV. The monitoring equipment is far more subtle than you would think.
Almost got intercepted by a bus. There was a big bus.
Yeah, there was a giant bus.
I was like, director, cut. director cut.
Right.
The audio was picked up by the body cam, so the surveillance vehicle was really just providing in the movie biz the wide shot, right?
Right. And I would say this, there's always a redundancy of recording. And the reason for that is we've had instances where the body recorder did not record correctly, or it has a corrupted file for some reason, unintentionally, clearly. I've had instances where the body camera and recording device, the camera for some reason gets blocked by the person's hair or a menu or whatever it may be, right? And so you really want that redundancy. And I don't know if this came out, and maybe I don't want to. I'll share it. You could watch movies and figure these things out. But the thing that's being recorded locally or on the device locally of the UCE is going to be transmitted back to the vehicle, so we'll see and hear it in real time as well.
I got you. Yeah, makes sense.
Somebody had an interesting
And it's a
question.
safety
Tracy
thing, Mike.
Collins
And yeah, it's safety.
says safety.
So yeah, not just so we get to hear what's being said, but for safety reasons. This one clearly not a safety issue, but there'd be instances where we would have code words that if that person needs a rescue or we see something that becomes a dangerous situation, we would have a rescue team.
Yeah.
Wow, that you tend to think of these. Isn't that interesting? Wasn't that fun? Wasn't that wow? They got to Donna,
Yeah.
but there is a real safety issue that's involved. You don't know if you're somebody, especially in this day and age, with people with all sorts of weapons and guns and whatever.
Just think about
I know
this
we
type
look at
of
her as
case.
an older lady, but nothing prevents her from having a knife or a gun.
Well, yeah. Or
right.
think about the reason she's on trial. If she could have hired a bodyguard of some sort that might have represented some sort of threat. So,
yeah. Somebody wants to know, how do you do a bump without encroaching on entrapment? I think that's more of a legal question, but I'll throw it over to you, Mike. It's not really entrapment.
The lawyer or the
professor.
One that
I'm
pretends to be a lawyer?
Professor Easter. I'm a professor or good egg. Someone said we have to get you a better name. The problem is everyone's giving you such great names. Good egg, Easter egg, Professor Easter.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's where the interaction becomes important. What's said and what's introduced. I'm sure she was probably represented by counsel at that point, but I don't know that she'd been charged. And we're not really eliciting something from her as a law enforcement entity. I mean, it kind of goes back to the concept of the Perkins ops, those jail ops. I think the Supreme Court's held that the Perkins is fully lawful if the target if it's not being done by a law enforcement personnel. So I don't know. I can tell you the times that I've done it are not identical, but have some similar scenarios.
Right.
Well, and we always run this by the U.S. Attorney's Office.
I'm sure. And she's also she's not committing a crime by making a phone call. All you guys are trying to do is elicit her to make a phone call or to contact the next person, not to commit a crime. I mean, obviously. So I don't think that's where it's not only is she not charged, but there's no entrapment because you're not causing her to commit any crime.
That's a great point, Linda. And that's true. And I always think to some gang cases and stuff where we're looking maybe more of maybe the transportation of firearms or narcotics. And we have to be very careful that we didn't induce that to happen. But in this case, you're right. We didn't ask her to commit a crime. We just asked, well, I guess somebody could say paying somebody's a crime, but we didn't ask her to do something that wasn't already done either. So yeah, interesting legal conundrum, but it seems like it's made it through the court hurdles and the other trials. So
yeah, and I think arguably she's the victim of extortion, if that's really what's happening, right?
Yeah.
So, so let me ask you this: are these type of operations, the bump, are they more common where you have a anticipated conspiracy, or does it equally get used when you just want to have an unindicted person as part of the mix?
In my experience, they're almost always done when we are wanting to elicit an overt act from the target. And that overt act could be physical in the nature where we interact with them and they go do something like lead us to a stash house, lead us to the victim, the kidnapping victim, something that's more overt, or this one even it had both, which is we already have electronic surveillance going, meaning we have wiretaps, and we want to elicit that conversation to hear in their own terms their roles. And even though they use coded language, some of that's actually to our benefit, because then it shows a kind of acknowledgement of guilt or wrongdoing. Why would you have coded language for something if you didn't know that what you did was wrong?
Yeah, and that is all through these subsequent phone calls and conversations. There was a point at which I think she and Charlie, they went outside to speak.
Right.
Like very sophisticated aversion type of character. To let's go outside. We don't trust anybody anywhere. They go to
Right.
noisy restaurants, right? They go to that one restaurant, the Dolce Vita, and do they have a team on them? Is that your understanding? They had a tail.
Well, I don't know that specifically, but in my experience, I would have had both tracking devices on their vehicles. I would have had pings on their phones, and I would have had geofences set up on their devices, so I know when they're leaving their homes. And I would have put a geofence around kind of their geographical area that they maintain. And when they leave that geofence, I would have got an alert. But you also have to remember they're listening to phone calls. You may not hear every phone call in the trial, but you would have, because they may not prove an element of the case, but they would have been monitoring these in real time, and they would have had the agent listening, or whoever the monitor was would have said, hey, they're getting ready to meet, they're going to meet tomorrow. And we would have had a team. We would always have surveillance teams on standby if it's a big enough case, or what the Bureau refers to as SOG, which is a group of surveillance personnel. But agents do it too. Just your everyday investigator would have been there, and I think they probably had a pretty good partnership with state and local, and they could have used resources there.
Yeah, I know at the Dolce Vita thing, somebody was inside because there's some horrible audio. I'm not going to share it now. At some point during the trial, we will.
Right.
We're certainly going to hear it, but they have audio as well, and it's in that code language that you're suggesting, and it is just so incriminating on its face. This case, of course, is against Donna. And so everything we've seen and heard in the prior trials has to be looked at a little differently. What do you see from this bump and the activity after that is most incriminating for Donna?
I thought her general knowledge I wouldn't even say general, her specific knowledge of the conspiracy and the events. She knew enough to use coded language about a TV, so an alibi stuff. She knows enough that she wants to get ahead of this and then continue to conceal it. And I think that's the ultimate thing that's going to look really bad, is the attempt to conceal. Because if you really didn't have anything to do with it, your response could have still been to Charlie, but it would have been far like, hey, I don't know why these people would approach me. Do you have any idea why they would have done this? But instead, she's trying to coach him through what's happening, but secretly, like, try to get him. I don't know if you've listened to all the calls. I tried to listen to some of them. She's trying to explain to him what's happening, and he's going off on tangents. She's like, no, not really that. So I think, coupled with other evidence, listening to this and watching her demeanor, especially on that video, is going to be very difficult to overcome for a defense team.
Yeah, and this may have been this tickling the wire may have been also what got Charlie. I mean, the final items, in my opinion, that they decided, okay, we can bring charges down now on him, because it all just fit together. And then, of course, he gets convicted. And now we go after her. And then the question is, what happens next? She's been in jail. As you heard earlier from our show, there was a question about whether or not the prosecution was going to use a snitch. I always think that's a bad idea when they come out of the jail cell. At this point, when we've had all this where they have other good evidence that they don't need to fool around with. But that's my view of things, and maybe hopefully.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Linda. That seems like a big risk legally.
Right.
To introduce something that I think's already been introduced well, and in your own terms. You're not, the ones I've done, we're listening from the command center in the jail of the conversation in the jail cell, and you're like, it's just very a nervous situation, because you're hoping that the person you've put in there doesn't elicit too much, doesn't create a scenario for you where you have to throw everything out. So yeah, I'm not saying they shouldn't do it. It just probably would have, in my kind of experience with it, I would have lent towards no. I think it's more of a risk than we need at this point, especially how good the other stuff went.
Right.
And I
Right.
liked what you said, Linda, about the um, well, there was a earlier thing you mentioned in your statement, and I just lost it because I was thinking how good your
About
first
this,
one was
about the snitch or the entrapment.
about the nature of her involvement.
Right.
But it'll come back to me,
No,
maybe.
we've gone up the line from Charlie. No, we've gone up the line to Charlie with this whole tickling the wire
Right.
with the bump. She's clearly involved. She clearly puts this whole thing together. You've got some great evidence with regard to her hatred about Professor Markel. It gives motive. And I just think that to endanger that possible conviction with the snitch, that it will know it may be a real snitch or just maybe, one of those ones that gets you wrongfully convicted and then you write about.
That
20
wants
years
to
from now.
get a better
Right.
deal for herself. And
Right.
think about some of the cases. There have been cases where that's been the sole evidence or the major part of evidence against a given defendant, where they really didn't have the luxury that the prosecution has in this case. They don't necessarily need the snitch. In some cases, I remember the Ty Tucker case down in Florida. It's always in Florida. That was basically their case, was the snitch. In that case, he represented himself, got a hung jury, and then the charges were ultimately dismissed. So in this deal, post-bump, Donna immediately calls Charlie and has that veiled kind of weird conversation and says, we need to see one another in person. I don't want to get into that one. I want to get into the next one, where ultimately Donna calls the FBI guy again. It's almost as if it was decided amongst them that it would be best if she returns the call, right? And so let's listen to this is relatively short. We'll listen to just a bit of it here. I'm taking stuff right from the trial because it's less, convoluted and polluted. It's as clean as it gets, really.
Hello. This is Mrs. Adelson. Is this Sammy? Sammy. Okay. My grandchildren had my phone before, so I can. Donna Adelson? I'm Mrs. Adelson. Yes. My grandchildren had my phone before, so and I just saw that you called. Oh, okay. You left a message on my voicemail. Right, I did. Yeah. This is my problem. You approached me on Alton Road. You handed me an article from the newspaper about my ex-son-in-law. You told me I need to call you and help your friend who was in prison. Now, at the time you did that, I didn't understand what you were talking about. I didn't call you back. Then you mailed me a threatening letter. Then you send me a text message to my phone that says I'm not taking you seriously. So I am taking you seriously. And I really want you to listen to me. I have to tell you, this is important. I have been so stressed out. I have spoken to 10 or 12 people who are close friends of mine, telling them about this and basically picking their brains and asking them what I should do, because I don't know your friend who is in jail. You mentioned a name. I don't even know his name. I never spoke to him. I don't know what he looks like. I've never met him. I'm sorry your friend's in jail, but I don't know what that has to do with me. You know exactly what it has to do with. You know exactly what. Listen to me carefully. Listen to me. You just got to listen to me. You need to ask your friend who this person looks like, what their name is, something, because I know there's a big reward out there, and if you need money for your friend, that's the way to get it. I'm asking you nicely. I don't know who he is. I am out of the loop. It is not me. If I can help, I would help. That's what. Just like I told you. Listen to me. Just like I told you that day. We know that your family had a problem up north.
We know that that problem was taken care of maybe about 1.5 years, 2 years ago. And we know that Katie has been taken care of and has been taken care of. Now my brother in jail, we were in Broward together. He told me the whole thing, and he hasn't been taken care of. You know. Now, all that's being asked for is 5K. That's all we're asking for is for 5K. And he told me everything, and I know everything. I know who's involved. I know everything, and I'll get the 100K for myself.
You know,
All I ask is to send the 5K. Everybody knows what's going on.
I don't, you know, you're saying everyone knows. I know I lost my ex-son-in-law. I did not have anything to do with it. That's why I said, ask him what. That's what my brother Tasso told me. He told me everything when we were in jail. He told me everything and who was involved. I know everything.
So, you know, she's sticking to the script here, Michael.
Yeah.
She knows
She did
nothing
pretty well
about
there,
it.
actually.
Yeah.
Whoever she met with, they did a nice job. I almost probably would have encouraged her just to say nothing, but
She's very helpful. If you need
Yeah.
money for your friend, there's
Right.
$100,000 reward. Just, you know, work with them on making that
Right.
happen.
Yeah, I think the continued engagement is still enough. The UCE did a nice job. I mean, he tried to redirect her to that she really does know what this is about. You know, she was trying to pretend she didn't, but I think the original phone calls prior to this indicate that she did know and was involved, and that now she's trying to mitigate that involvement through this interaction. And which Linda brought me back to what I was thinking about, which is I could see these types of operations, especially this one, becoming sort of out of the concept of the prosecution say, we just don't have enough guys, investigators. We need a little bit more. What more can we get to show her role? And that's where these types of concepts come in, especially the wire and physical surveillance, and then the undercover stuff.
Yeah, that sort of seemed to me that they thought that she'd, whatever you were saying, that she's the weakest link, or she's the mastermind, or one of the masterminds, whatever it was, that we needed more from her. And she gave it,
Right.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
She gave it. I think she's got some big troubles coming around. I mean, she certainly gave Charlie some big troubles, Charlie Adelson, because I thought that was extremely, extremely effective.
Yeah, I agree.
I think there's going to be an attempt by the defense to suggest that anything she has said, anything that suggests she knew what was going on, was all after the fact. That if she did anything, it was to help protect the family rather than her direct involvement in what might have happened. Are there specific, as you can recall, any specific tells that she gave that made it more obvious she was connected to the original plan versus protecting others after the fact?
I thought the reference to the TV, wasn't that sort of
the
agreed
TV,
upon?
the TV.
Yes, that's it.
Right.
You got
that
it.
that was agreed on pretty early, that was going to be the alibi reason, right? Yeah. That to me shows a foreknowledge, not just a conspiracy after the fact sort of element.
So for those who don't remember, the Geek Squad, that used to be a thing, and now these TVs, if you go back to 2014, that TV, and I can't remember, 50-inch, I can't remember what size it was, probably $5,000. Nowadays you can get one that size for about $300 or $400, right? Maybe a little better if you go Sony. But the Geek Squad was more common to get a TV fixed. Now it's just throw it out in the garbage and get another one, which even back then might have been a better idea. So they have the Geek Squad come, and that appointment made a week ahead of time is made almost exactly at the time that the hit takes place. And so alibi for Wendy Adelson.
Yeah, the knowledge of that's too contemporaneous with the events to me to suggest a knowledge after the fact. I mean, I guess you could make your arguments for how she learned of it later, but to me,
just coincidence.
I don't know.
Just coincidence. I mean, that's the argument. That's just too tenuous. That's coincidence. I mean, the thing is, there's so much baggage attached to that damn TV, because it was a divorce present from Charlie to Wendy. And he said, I could have hired a hitman, but it was cheaper to get the TV. Now, I've heard that that sounds like a smart ass thing I would say. It really is.
No,
I mean,
you're absolutely with you, Michael Bryant. Yeah.
I would just be a smart ass saying something like that. So it doesn't offend me as much, but obviously in retrospect, it looks horrible.
Yeah, I think it just shows so much indifference to the scenario or to the murder, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Shows, the whole thing shows so much indifference to him. And part of the thing she's going to have it, they try to keep them out. They're not. The emails, because her daughter's going to testify. The emails, the mom came up with the idea of because Dan Markel was so deep into his Jewish faith, Jewish religion, to dress the kids up, the kids up in Hitler uniforms,
Nazis,
right?
Yeah,
Nazi
or turn
uniforms
them into
on.
Catholics. That was another.
And try and turn them into Catholics. I mean, just the animosity is so much with the baggage of the animosity. I mean, for me, looking at it from a defense attorney point of view, there's a lot to get over here. Although I do think keeping her having that grandma look and not letting her buy any hair dye from the commissary and dyeing her hair back is probably a good look. It looked like today she was dressed in I guess we call it a jail power knot suit or something like that. It looked like she had the undergarments in the jail with somebody loaned her.
Was that a cardigan? Was it a sweater?
No, it looked like it was a blazer of some sort with some kind of under. But I think that's a decision that attorneys make, and that may be a good decision that they made to make her look like the grandma. Although I can also see a jury saying, and I know we're a little off track here, but we're talking about what you do and why you do things to get responses. A jury saying, well, she's trying to. She's trying to misdirect and she's trying to fool us, and we're not going to be fooled by this. So, that comes with the risk too, by letting her look the old frail grandma who's been in jail,
school marm or something,
right. As opposed to Donna, who was really kind of sort of straight up to, who to the undercover agent, right? She wasn't backing away. She didn't back away from him.
Right. Yeah, yeah, for sure. And kind of look at the whole thing, it just seems so transactional for the family. Like it was just another day in the life. That's so interesting to me. There's normally you in these types of scenarios, I would normally hear a lot of passion and anger, in the calls, and it just no big deal.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Very cold, calculating, very, very Godfather-like-ish.
Right.
If I would
It's
say
almost
so.
like it's something they normally do. It's like every couple months,
Well, there's no doubt Donna's used to getting her way, so this may just be for her another avenue to get her way.
Yeah.
Have you, in a bigger picture, Michael, have you had these bumps or tickles that just failed, just flat ass failed, just did not produce what you needed?
I've had one personally that failed horrifically. I don't know that I can.
No,
I don't know how to
about
embarrass myself
specifics.
with it, but the scenario with the individual that I was targeting in our case, she did the exact opposite of what we had hoped, and it just made our life more difficult in the sense that instead of eliciting further conversation on the wires, they all dropped their cell phones, and we had to start from scratch. It doesn't take long, but it definitely made my life a lot worse than it was. But it's a risk. It's a calculated risk, and sometimes you're at a point that you just have to take the risk. Otherwise, there's not a path forward.
Yeah.
Did
Now,
you get the sense? Let me ask one follow-up. Sorry, Counselor. Let
Sorry.
me ask a quick follow-up. Did you get the sense that she knew what was going on? That she made you, as they say?
Yes. I was listening to the interaction live, and her first response was, I don't want to curse, but she cursed and says, "I know you're a cop."
Okay.
And the undercover tried to recover. And
because that's a shot across the bow. That's a tough one.
Yeah, she was a very sophisticated individual, and she just was picking it up. And I'll be honest, it's hard to be the good undercovers and some of the newer undercovers that I've seen. It's hard to take away your years and decades of experience as a law enforcement person and set them aside to become an undercover and interact in an environment that you know you didn't grow up in
Right.
those in that culture per se, and it's difficult, and they did grow up in it culturally, and they can sort of pick up off on small cues that you don't know you're giving off that just scream law enforcement. And maybe I'll give you an example. I was at a restaurant, and there were individuals that clearly by their appearance were involved in gang activity, and I was sitting there with my wife, and she's like, we're looking at each other and they're looking at me, and she goes, they know who you are, huh? And I said, well, not exactly who I am because we don't know each other, but they know what I am. And she goes, and then as we go to the mall and do things, she's like, they just see you. And I'm like, yeah, it's weird. We just see each other, and it's because we get used to seeing each other in other environments. And so it's interesting. My wife would pick up on it, and she goes, oh, that person recognizes you, huh? I'm like, well, not because we know each other, but we both know who we are.
Yeah,
You
that's
know, there's a
fascinating.
famous restaurant here in New York City in East Harlem called Rayo's, right? And and people have tables there for years by the night. But it was always it was an interesting place because all the cops and all the mafia, all the gangsters would all eat together. They'd all eat together in
Right.
this Italian restaurant. I think it was even featured in The Sopranos. I think one of the actors was in The Sopranos who owned or waited at Rayo's, and all Frankie Pecolano, I forget his last name, but that's where they all knew, and you could just walk in, and you know who was a cop, you know who was a gangster, you know.
Right.
It was but no one harmed anybody with that because I was just like, you know, this is business. We're out here eating. We're all eating at the
Right.
best restaurant, the best
Yeah,
Italian
that's a
food.
great point, Linda, because my wife goes, did it make you nervous? And no, not really. I'm not here for them, and they're, and they realize they're not here for me. We can coexist.
Yeah.
It's funny is my wife she goes, why do you always say hi to them? What do you mean? And she goes, you'll like nod or give them a slight wave. And I said, oh, yeah, once we identify each other, it sort of just breaks the ice on, hey, how's
It's
it
a
going? Hey,
it's
good.
a weird mutual respect.
Yeah.
It's really odd. Yeah. And it
Yeah.
also, I think, subconsciously or otherwise, you're kind of putting them on notice.
Right. I
I
want them
don't,
to know I see them too. Right.
yeah.
Yeah, everybody sees it.
Right.
One of the things I had to ask from a legal point of view, because you don't need any court approval for a tickle, but you do need a warrant for a wire, and you do need a warrant. I assume. Do you need for geofencing? Do you need a warrant
Right.
for that? So that there's
Yes.
different aspects of this operation that for those who are watching, you may need warrants for, but you don't need it for this tickle the wire, which I love better than the bump. But because the
Yeah.
bump implies a physical reaction.
Well, and the tickle the wire may not always be an overt, person to person thing. We may do things that are a little more subtle initially, and in order to elicit conversation. If it's not happening, then we may ramp up. And you see, they in this case, they do a couple things, right? He sends her a text, and
Mhm.
and that's because she might have, obviously you see that she does what they want initially, and then she goes a little silent, and they were hoping to expedite a few things, I'm sure. And so, hey, let's re-engage and let her know we're still here. Make sure she didn't forget about us.
Yep.
And it sounded like it escalated a little bit in those
Right.
follow-ups, right?
Right. Yeah. It should. And that would have been my nature as well. Yeah, you would definitely need a Title III affidavit for the wiretaps and the geofence. The geofence is a product of the pings, and the geofence can be done through mapping and software programs,
Okay.
external. Yeah.
All right. Interesting. Interesting. I thought we should all know. Since we're learning, we might as well all learn together.
There was, I always think of you, and I think cell phones and all of that geolocation stuff. In this case, less critical because of some of the other evidence. And it also went to the underlying crime where you have the Prius, which is the vehicle of choice for assassins, as I understand it.
Right.
You get the Prius traveling from Fort Lauderdale / North Miami on up to Tallahassee. So there's a lot of that data that tracks their travels.
Well, they did use cell phone evidence for those individuals. They showed that their cell phone evidence went down into Tallahassee. Yeah, they did. They did use it. It may not make it to the trial because it doesn't tend to prove an element that's not already proven through statements, but it was
Right.
used investigatively.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I tell you what, this is really informative. I mean, this is really an interesting insight into why these happen, who you pick, how it goes down, what you do if it's a fail. I mean, what an education our viewers are getting from you, Professor
Right. It,
Easter.
it was a lot. There would have been a lot of planning. When I ran a couple undercover operations for myself, not like fancy TV stuff, but enough that we do have rehearsals, and we would go through scenarios and practice what would be said from the target, and let the undercover practice how to respond. Especially as investigators, we would tend to know the subjects better and sort of things that they may or may not say, and things that we really want
Yeah.
the undercover to bring out that we need as elements for our case.
Oh.
I think it's some of the deep cover, like Serpico was based on a real person, right?
Yeah.
The one that Johnny Depp played, that character also based on a real person. You remember which one that was? What was the name of that one? Help me, Johnny Depp.
All right. I mean, now
Donnie Brasco. Johnny
Brasco, right.
Those are life-changing, experiences. How do people get into that? I mean, that's way beyond a little tickle or bump.
Right. Those are full-time undercover employees, and that may be could be the one case they work for their whole life. I did one. I used what is referred to as a deep cover person. That's how he referred to himself. I think it just sounds cool, so he probably said it about himself all the time. But he was absolutely incredible, and I used him for be careful, a narcotics type thing. But we used him in an environment that he was just so amazing. I remember watching him. We were in a hotel room adjacent with the room that he was in, with the targets all monitored, and we were in the other room watching and listening. And it was like watching a movie in real time. He was just so good. In fact, I almost was like, maybe he's too good. He just, and the jury loved him. He actually came and testified in closed court, but listening to him testify about his background, his deep cover, and
Fabulous,
it was one of those things of like, I definitely had maybe an unhealthy man crush on him. He was just so awesome. So yeah,
it's a talent. There's no doubt about it.
He had so much charisma. Like, you just naturally were drawn to him. He was just so engaging, right? Maybe that's a good word to put for him.
And it worked.
Good undercovers are.
Because you got to fool people and get their trust. So
yeah. And his nature, you would have never picked him as a cop, and he just he looked like a gangster.
Yeah. So, well, glad somebody's out there doing that.
Well, one day we're going to ask you, what do you think of the movie Goodfellas when we start getting into gangsters?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, even the cops love that stuff, right?
Yeah,
I mean, so, I mean, you ask most cops, it's probably one of their favorite movies, right?
Yeah.
I mean, come on. So.
It is
solid.
Leave the gun, take the cannoli.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, Michael, thank you as always.
So
looks like a beautiful day there. I won't out where you may be, but it's lovely out, and we appreciate you spending some of your day with us.
And educating everybody.
Yeah, it's always great to learn and catch up. So we'll keep checking in with you and try and work you in amongst your trial schedules. And
yeah. Perfect. Yeah, as always, thanks for having me on, and enjoy our chats together. Hopefully there's some value to the audience. Yeah.
I think so.
I think so. I think they really got value. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, sir. Take care.
Talk to you. Bye.
So
always cool.
He's always cool. So let me just tell you that there's been 10 Justice Serve TV memberships gifted by, I should start early on. Donnie Not Wahlberg gifted 1 Justice Serve TV membership.
Is that Georgia Hello Kitty? Is that the GA?
Georgia Hello Kitty gifted 10 Justice Serve TV memberships. Thank you so much. Kay Schmidt gifted 5 Justice Serve TV memberships. Let's point out, Arlene Wiley's been a member for 4 months. We appreciate it. And all these memberships also.
Do you think Wendy's involved?
No, I don't think Wendy's involved. Do you think? What you mean for our show? Wendy's not involved.
Not
for our show.
No.
Is somebody watching? I don't know. I mean,
I think she's involved to what degree, I'm not sure we will ever learn. I really don't know.
Yeah, very, very, very interesting. Anyhow, please, all of you who are watching us, please hit that subscribe, the like, the share, and the notify button. We're going to be on this case until it finishes, even though we were watching some other cases today. Oh boy, had to listen to Wolfenbarger. I'm so glad that we had to come to Michael Easter to explain to us about the tickling the wire or the bump.
Yeah.
I think that we should be naming our shows that from now on.
Tickling the wire. It's just fascinating. It's, we see so much of it in the fictional world that when you hear what really happens, it's like 90% of what we see recreated in the fictional world. But it's always nice to hear this is the legit. These are the guys risking their lives, getting in there. And it's an amazing skill, and thank you for your service, as they say.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, you know what? Remember, I was looking for the name to go after Justice Serve TV for when we do the solving of the case.
Yes, I thought it was going to be the hunt. Is that right?
I thought it was. It was. I thought the hunt, but I think tickling the wire could be really interesting, right? Because tickling the wire could be interesting. We'll think about it. We may have to run
take that into the Poconos. Sample it out there in the Poconos. All right, you got some poker? Got some poker tonight? Is that right?
I have actually the lawyers tonight. I have the lawyers.
Oh, the lawyers.
Oh, poker's gonna be Friday. You might be on your own with the opening statements for Friday.
Yeah, it's supposed to be Friday. We'll see how it goes.
We'll see how things go as the week goes on. But anyhow, thanks for joining us, everybody. Again, before you go, please hit the subscribe, like, share, notify. Michael Easter donates his time. We want to have him back. We try to ask him no of it. Whoa. Okay.
What is that?
Well, that's my
your alarm.
That's actually a phone call.
Oh, geez. What was that music or something?
That's poker. That's
Poker
Lady
Face.
Gaga. Poker Face.
Oh, Poker Face. Okay, which
That's
is a very good show.
call.
If you haven't seen that, see Poker Face. Okay, tomorrow we have some more. All Adelson all the time. We may get back into her interview with the cops, which was done on the day of the murder. We saw a little bit of Jane yesterday. She's become very popular. We may have to see.
Jane. I mean, I didn't even remember Jane from the beginning. Right?
She's a trip. I'll tell you that.
So
all right, then.
Continue, and we'll have updates, and we'll see what happens. But it's going to be Adelsons as the, what do you call them? As they turn.
As the Adelsons turn on one another. Yeah. All right, partner. Have a good evening. We'll see you all tomorrow. I'm Michael Bryant. Try to do the right thing.